Have you ever thought about how history turns on a dime? We always talk about big battles or brilliant inventions, but sometimes the biggest changes, the ones that reshape the entire world, all start with a single death.
I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, right? How can one person's absence completely alter the path of millions? Well, as we're about to see, history is just full of these moments where a single death wasn't just an ending. It was a chaotic, world-changing new beginning.
And the main idea we're going to be talking about today is this thing called a power vacuum. Think of it like this: when a really powerful leader suddenly disappears, and there's no clear number two to take over, it creates this giant hole. And the scramble to fill that hole, well, that's what can tear empires apart or build brand new ones from the rubble.
So, for our first section, let's look at how some deaths led to the immediate and, honestly, catastrophic collapse of entire civilizations. It's almost like someone just flipped a switch.
And we've got to start with maybe the most famous example of all time: Alexander the Great. This guy conquers most of the known world, builds this unbelievably massive empire, and then, boom, he dies suddenly. He's only 32, and he has no clear successor ready to step up.
And the result was just instant chaos. You see, Alexander's empire wasn't held together by laws or governments. It was held together by him. The second he was gone, his life's work just completely unraveled. The biggest empire in the world didn't just slowly decline. It shattered into pieces, kicking off decades of war between his generals, who all wanted to be the next Alexander.
And this wasn't just some ancient Greek thing either. Fast forward a couple thousand years, and we see almost the exact same playbook used in the Americas against the Aztec and Inca empires.
The Spanish conquistadors, they figured this out perfectly. They knew they didn't have to beat the entire Aztec or Inca army. They just had to take out the leader. By capturing and killing Montezuma and Atahualpa, they basically cut the head off the snake. Without that central command, organized resistance just fell apart, and these massive empires were conquered with shocking speed.
But here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes, a leader's death doesn't destroy the state. It transforms it into something completely new. Often, it becomes the very thing the killers were trying to prevent. And that brings us to Julius Caesar.
This is like the ultimate example of a plan backfiring. You've got these senators who are terrified that Caesar's going to become a king and destroy their beloved republic, so they assassinate him to save it. But the power vacuum they create does the exact opposite. It leads to more civil war, and in the end, Caesar's heir rises up and becomes the first official Roman emperor, ending the republic for good. They literally caused the thing they were trying to stop.
Okay, so let's move on and look at how a death can be like a random domino that gets knocked over, setting off a chain reaction that nobody, and I mean nobody, could have ever predicted.
This whole sequence of events is just wild. It all starts with the death of a 15-year-old kid, Prince Arthur. Because he dies, his widow ends up marrying his younger brother, Henry VIII. And Henry's obsession with getting a male heir from that specific marriage is what eventually leads him to break away from the Catholic Church, creating the Church of England and basically changing religion and politics forever. All because one teenager got sick and died.
And check this one out. Ever heard of the Kingdom of Burgundy? Probably not, because it never really got to exist. A guy named Charles the Bold was this close to creating a powerful new country right between France and Germany. But he dies in a battle. His massive, wealthy lands go to his daughter. And who does she marry? A Habsburg. All that money and power get funneled right into the Habsburg dynasty, helping them become one of the most powerful families in European history. One man's death literally erased a potential country from the map and bankrolled an empire instead.
And, of course, you can't talk about this stuff without mentioning the assassination that started World War I. Now, to be clear, the death of Archduke Franz Ferdinand didn't cause the war. All the ingredients for it were already there. But his death was the spark. It was the single event that lit the fuse on this giant powder keg of alliances and rivalries, turning what should have been a small regional conflict into a global nightmare that completely redrew the world map.
All right, now for something a little different. We're going to talk about a death that happened back in 1951. But this one didn't just change politics or borders. Its impact is incredibly personal, and it's still echoing in our lives right now.
70,000. Over 70,000 scientific studies. We're talking about the polio vaccine, breakthroughs in cancer treatments, gene mapping, even critical research for COVID-19. All of it, every single bit, came from just one source.
I mean, the sheer scale of the science is just mind-boggling, isn't it?
But behind that incredible number is a really difficult human story. It's a story that forces us to ask some really tough questions about who science is for and what it costs.
The person behind all that science was Henrietta Lacks, an African-American woman. Her cancer cells were taken without her permission back in 1951, and what was incredible is that they could live and reproduce forever in a lab. These HeLa cells became one of the most important tools in modern medicine, but her death and the way her cells were used without her family's knowledge forced a massive, long-overdue conversation about patient rights, consent, and justice in medical research.
So let's bring all these stories together. What do they all tell us? They show that history isn't some straight, predictable line. It's actually really fragile. And it can pivot, it can turn on a dime, all because of a single moment, a single death.
And that quote really gets to the heart of it. A power vacuum, that void created when one person disappears, is one of the most powerful and wildly unpredictable forces in history. It can bring down an entire old world and create a totally new one in its place.
And that kind of leaves us with one last, pretty sobering thought. When you look at our world right now, who are the people holding these incredibly complex systems together? It's a question that takes everything we've talked about and applies it right here, right now. Thanks for watching.